The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, heavy cream-colored paper with gold embossing announcing the Morrison family's annual reunion. I stared at it, running my fingers over the raised letters while memories of past humiliations played through my mind like a worn-out film reel. My name is Olivia Morrison, but these days I go by Liv Carter in the business world. 10 years ago, I was the family's greatest disappointment, the girl who walked away from our family's banking empire to pursue foolish dreams of working in hospitality. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. My cousin Diana's name flashed on the screen. I already knew why she was calling. Olivia. Her voice dripped with artificial sweetness. I assume you received the invitation. I did. Well, darling, I'm calling to let you know that perhaps it's best if you skip this year's reunion. The Starlight Grand is quite exclusive. The required attire alone. I glanced out my office window at the Manhattan skyline, suppressing a smile. The Starlight Grand, my flagship hotel, though the Morrison family didn't know that. They had no idea that LC Hotels, the fastest-growing luxury hotel chain in the country, belonged to their poor relation. Are you saying I can't afford it, Diana? Oh, don't be dramatic. It's just that, well, we have some very important guests coming. The governor, several CEOs. We can't have anyone feeling uncomfortable. By anyone, she meant herself. Heaven forbid her successful friends discover her cousin worked in customer service. What would they think? I see I kept my voice neutral. And who chose the venue? I did, of course. Pride filled her voice. Daddy says I have excellent taste. The Starlight Grand is the most prestigious hotel in Manhattan. I had to pull some serious strings to book it for our reunion. I bit back a laugh. Diana hadn't pulled any strings. Her request had come through our regular booking channels, and I personally approved it last week. In fact, I'd given them a special rate, about 30% higher than our standard fee. That must have been difficult, I said mildly. Well, not everyone has my connections. The owner, Liv Carter, is notoriously private, but her staff was quite accommodating once they heard the Morrison name. Of course they were. I'd instructed them to be. How interesting. Anyway, Diana continued, I'm sure you understand. Perhaps next year, if your situation improves. Are you still working at that little hotel in Brooklyn? The little hotel she referred to was actually my test property, where I developed and refined the service innovations that had made LC Hotels famous in the hospitality industry. But the Morrisons had stopped paying attention to my career years ago. Something like that, I replied. After hanging up, I sat back in my leather chair, memories washing over me. 10 years ago, I'd been fresh out of Cornell's hotel administration program, eager to learn the business from the ground up. My family had been horrified. A hotel clerk. My father had roared. No daughter of mine will wear a name tag and carry luggage. But I'd stuck to my plan, working every position from housekeeper to front desk manager. I learned every aspect of the business, identifying problems and innovating solutions. Within 3 years, I'd opened my first property under the LC Hotels banner. Now, at 32, I owned 17 luxury hotels across 3 continents. The Starlight Grand, my Manhattan flagship, had revolutionized the industry with its blend of classic luxury and cutting-edge technology. The same family that had once mocked my career choice now considered it the height of prestige to hold their reunion there. My phone buzzed. A text from my assistant, Marcus. The Morrison family reunion contract needs your final signature. Shall I bring it up? I smiled, piping back, no need. I have plans for this one. Opening my laptop, I began making arrangements. If my family wanted to ban me from the reunion for being too poor, they were in for quite a surprise. The Starlight Grand was about to host a revelation none of them would ever forget. Memories flooded back as I worked. Every snide comment, every dismissive glance, every family gathering where I was seated at the far end of the table, away from the successful relatives. Diana's wedding 3 years ago had been the worst. She'd seated me with the catering staff, telling everyone it was so I feel more comfortable with my own kind. The fact that I'd already owned 12 hotels by then didn't matter. They'd never bothered to look beyond their own assumptions. My sister Madeline had been the only one to stay in touch, though even she didn't know the full extent of my success. She called just as I was finalizing the arrangements. Liv, Diana called me. She said she had to uninvite you from the reunion. I'm so sorry. Don't be, I replied, signing the last document with a flourish. Actually, I have a favor to ask. Could you make sure everyone arrives exactly at 7 p.m.? It's important. Why? What are you planning? Let's just say Diana isn't the only one with connections at the Starlight Grand. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. I personally supervised every detail, from the menu to the floral arrangements. The Morrison family wanted luxury. I would give them a show they'd never forget. The night before the reunion, I stood in the hotel's grand lobby, watching the staff polish every surface to a mirror shine. The crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the marble floors gleamed like sheets of ice. Everything was perfect. Marcus appeared at my side, tablet in hand. All arrangements are in place. The new signage will be unveiled at exactly 7:15 p.m. tomorrow. Are you sure about this? I nodded, thinking of Diana's condescending phone call, of years of subtle and not so subtle humiliation. Absolutely sure. After all, it's not every day I get to welcome my family to my hotel. I smiled, imagining their faces when they realized the truth. Tomorrow would change everything, and I was ready. At precisely 6:45 p.m. on the evening of the reunion, I stood in my private office on the top floor of the Starlight Grand, watching the Morrison family arrive through the security feeds. They came in waves of designer clothes and expensive jewelry, each trying to outshine the other. Diana swept in wearing Valentino, directing staff like she owned the place. My father's Bentley pulled up to the Valley station, followed by a stream of luxury cars carrying aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't seen in years. Everything's ready, Marcus said, adjusting his tablet. The staff knows their cues. Should I have security on standby? I shook my head. No need. The Morrisons care too much about appearances to make a scene in public. I smoothed down my custom-made suit, Armani, though they wouldn't expect me to know the difference. Let's give them time to settle in. Through the cameras, I watched my family members gather in the grand ballroom. Diana held court near the champagne fountain, loudly explaining how she pulled strings to secure the venue. My father stood with his business associates, probably discussing the latest banking merger. Even my distant cousins were there, all carefully positioned to show off their perceived status. At 7:10 p.m., right on schedule, the hotel manager approached Diana with a first hint that something was amiss. Ms. Morrison? I'm afraid there's been a slight issue with the reservation. Diana's face darkened. What kind of issue? I personally arranged everything with your corporate office. Yes, ma'am. It's just that the owner has some specific requests regarding tonight's event. The owner? Diana laughed dismissively. I seriously doubt Liv Carter concerns herself with individual events. Now, if you'll excuse me. Actually, I said, stepping into the ballroom. Liv Carter concerns herself with quite a lot of things. The silence that fell over the room was absolute. Every head turned toward me, the uninvited relative, the family embarrassment, standing in the doorway of Manhattan's most prestigious hotel wearing a suit that cost more than Diana's car. Olivia, my father's voice carried across the room. What are you doing here? Diana said. Diana said I couldn't afford to attend. I finished for him, walking slowly into the center of the room. She was concerned I might embarrass the family. Diana stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. This is a private event. I'll have security remove you. No, I cut her off, you won't. On cue, Marcus pressed a button on his tablet. The massive screen behind the stage lit up with the hotel's logo, and beneath it my full name. Olivia Morrison Carter, founder and CEO, LC Hotels International. The gasps were audible. Diana's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. That's not possible, she stammered. Would you like to see my business cards? I asked sweetly. Or perhaps the deed to the building. I have those right here. I patted the leather portfolio under my arm. My father pushed through the crowd, his face a mix of shock and something else. Was it pride? You own the Starlight Grand? And 16 other properties across 3 continents, I confirmed. Though this one is special. It's where I started my career, as a junior housekeeper, while all of you were laughing at my foolish career choice. The memory surfaced again. Diana mocking my name tag, my aunts whispering about wasted potential, my cousins excluding me from family photos because I didn't fit the image. All those years, I continued, my voice carrying in the stunned silence. While you were so busy looking down on me, you never bothered to look up. to see what I was building. The little hotel in Brooklyn Diana loves to joke about? It's my innovation lab, where we develop the systems that have revolutionized the luxury hotel industry. Marcus stepped forward, distributing folders to key family members. Inside you'll find the true story of LC Hotels, along with documentation of your rather interesting booking for tonight's event. Diana snatched her folder, her hands shaking as she opened it. Her eyes widened at the numbers. This can't. The rate you charge us is about 30% above our standard fee, I confirmed. Consider it a family discount, in reverse. My sister Madeline burst out laughing from somewhere in the crowd. Others joined in nervously, unsure whether they were allowed to find humor in the situation. Why didn't you tell us? My father demanded. Would you have believed me? I asked simply. 10 years ago, you told me no daughter of yours would ever work in a hotel. Well, you were right about one thing. I don't work in a hotel. I own them. The screens around the ballroom came to life, showing images of my properties around the world. The sunset view from our Maldives resort, the snow-capped peaks surrounding our Swiss chateau, the glittering skyline visible from every room of our Dubai tower. As for tonight's reunion, I continued, your reservation hasn't been canceled. You're welcome to stay. In fact, I've arranged a special tour of the property. I think it's time you saw what a career in customer service really looks like. Diana stepped forward, her composure cracking. Olivia, we never met. Yes, you did. I cut her off gently. You meant every snide comment, every exclusion, every moment of mockery. But that's okay, because while you were all so busy maintaining appearances, I was building something real. I turned to the assembled crowd, raising my voice slightly. Welcome to the Starlight Grand. My staff will show you to your upgraded suites, though I'm afraid Diana's room had to be downgraded due to a last-minute VIP booking. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Diana's face flushed deep red as she realized she'd be staying in the same category of room she'd once mocked me for cleaning. As the family dispersed, guided by my impeccably trained staff, my father lingered behind. I was wrong, he said quietly, about everything. I studied him for a moment, seeing for the first time uncertainty in his eyes. Yes, you were. But would you like to know the best part about owning 17 hotels, Dad? He raised an eyebrow questioningly. I have 17 different presidential suites where you can stay while you figure out how to make things right. A small smile cracked his serious expression. Where did you learn to negotiate like that? Probably the same place I learned about hospitality, by starting at the bottom and working my way up. Something this family never understood. Later that night, after the tours were complete and the family had settled into their rooms, Diana's notably smaller than the others, I stood in my private penthouse looking out over the city. Marcus brought in the final numbers for the evening. Your family seems subdued, he observed. I laughed. Amazing what a little perspective can do. Did you see Diana's face when she realized her room doesn't have a city view? Are you going to tell them about the expansion? The new properties in Paris and Tokyo. I smiled, thinking of the contracts sitting on my desk. The Starlight Grand was just the beginning. Let's save something for next year's reunion. After all, every good hotelier knows the importance of repeat business. As the city lights twinkled below, I thought about the long journey from that first day as a housekeeper to this moment. Success wasn't about proving them wrong, it was about proving myself right. And sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a complimentary upgrade and a spectacular view. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. Can we talk tomorrow? Please? I typed back a simple response. Of course. I believe your breakfast reservation is at 9 a.m. I own that restaurant too. Sometimes the greatest luxury isn't in the thread count of the sheets or the height of the ceiling. It's in the simple pleasure of finally being seen for who you really are. And as I looked out over my hotel empire, I knew that tomorrow would bring a new chapter in the Morrison family story. After all, every great hotel knows that the key to success isn't just in providing a room, it's in creating an experience they'll never